Here we are at an Unelect Eric Paulson meeting. Good crowd of people here. I'm just capturing the crowd.
Do we get to say if we want to be captured?
At a public event, unfortunately not. I don't mean to intrude. I just take a look at how big the crowd is at every event. Okay, we're still waiting for the speakers to arrive, so I will resume when the speakers start speaking. Okay? Thank you. Unelect Eric Paulson event on June 22nd.
Go ahead and let her introduce herself. She will have about a half hour to speak and to answer questions. Okay? Welcome, Alicia.
So thank you all so much for coming. So I'm Alicia Donahue, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about me and why I'm running for office. And then I want to turn it over to you and hear what your concerns are and what you're interested in seeing in a candidate. And I think it's so amazing that you're all here today because you are the ones who get to decide who will be endorsed on the DFL side of the ticket. And I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have, that it's some backroom decision made by the DFL party, but really it's all of you. And so the fact that you're here and wanting to know more, I think is amazing. So a little bit about me. I'm a clinical social worker by background. I've been working in our community and around the field here in the metro area for more than a decade. I have my master's in social work from the University of Minnesota, and I also have an undergrad in family social science with a minor in family violence prevention. So advocating for individuals has been my lifelong passion, and I've had the opportunity to do that for the state of Minnesota in a role as an ombudsman. So the last 5 years have been spent advocating for individuals with mental health, developmental disabilities, and chemical dependency. So advocating for their rights and ensuring that they're protected in the licensed settings that they are either living in, working in, or spending time in. So all of that changed this last election. Prior to this past year, I've been involved politically, but on a much smaller scale. I figured if I stuck to my role working with individuals with disabilities and advocating for them and advocating for changes in those laws, that the rest of the world would kind of figure itself out. Turns out that's not the case. So I found myself feeling the need to do more and knowing that democracy is not a sideline gig. And so I decided to get involved with the Women's March. I knew that there was one that was happening out in Washington and felt that I really needed to be there but couldn't for family reasons and other obligations here. And so I became one of the co-founders and organizers of the Women's March here in Minnesota. So in 9 short weeks, I helped to organize Minnesota's largest mobilization of community members in our state's history. And it was during the march, literally as we were marching down John Ireland Boulevard, where people were chanting, "Our democracy is under attack. What do? Stand up, fight back." And I thought, I need to continue to do more. I can't sit on the sidelines, and I recognize that I have a capability of grassroots organizing by virtue of the fact that 100,000 people showed up. And so I started thinking about what keeps me up at night and where are the areas in my community that I want to make the most change. And my state house representative is John Applebaum. I live here in Plymouth, just down the road, and he's doing a fantastic job. And then I started paying attention to what Eric Paulson is doing. And the turning point for me was when I was on his Facebook page and there was an individual who had commented on another one of his photo ops and said, "How come all the photos you take, the people don't look anything like me or the people in my neighborhood?" And as a social worker and as a human being, that broke my heart. And I thought, this is where the downfall of our democracy happens. Because not only is what that person's saying is, then how come they don't look like me? They're also saying then my voice must not matter and I must not matter. So why would I care what happens in Washington, D.C. if my congressperson isn't paying any attention to me?
George, is there a chair over there?
Here.
So, for all of those reasons...
Sorry, Alicia.
No.
These chairs are open now.
Let me sure
sorry.
everyone can get settled. No, that's okay. Welcome. So I'm Alicia Donahue. I just started sharing with everyone why I'm interested in running for Congress. So for all of those reasons, I decided to run. So I have not held public office before, and I do not think that's a bad thing. And the reason why I say that is for several reasons. We don't have enough time to cover all of it tonight. But really, when we look at what the Constitution identifies as qualifications for individuals to be a member of Congress, there are 3 of them. And I meet all of the requirements. You have to be over 25. That happened a while ago for me. You have to live in the United States for 7 years, and you have to be a member of the state at the time of the election that you want to represent. So technically you don't have to live in the district, however I do. My fiance and I live in Plymouth down the road here with his 2 children. And so those are the qualifications that the Constitution sets forth. And where I think we've gone wrong is there are people in Congress that can no longer relate to us and who we can't trust. And that needs to change. Another thing that's really important to me, and I think to a lot of people in our community, is that women make up less than 20% of the U.S. House of Representatives. And they make up 50% of our community. And so if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And we saw that. We saw that firsthand with what's happening in the Senate, with our closed-door meetings with all men talking about our health care, all of our health care. And the further you are removed from any situation, whether it be your gender, your ethnicity, your socioeconomic status, the harder it is for you to relate to those individuals. And how can we trust a group of rich white men sitting around a table in Congress who have never lived the lives that we've lived and don't know what it's like to be a woman or to have a pre-existing condition, or to have a child that's born with a pre-existing condition, or to worry about what your parents are how your parents are gonna manage when we remove $880 billion from Medicaid. And so there's a lot of reasons why I'm running and a lot of reasons why I feel unqualified, even though I've never held elected office before. And so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Some other information about my background: I currently serve on the Regional Quality Council. It's a group of individuals who are looking at the services for individuals with disabilities and trying to make improvements to them. I sat on a number of committees and councils with the Department of Human Services after the Johnson Settlement Agreement, which helped change the laws that we currently have in place for individuals with disabilities. And I was the president of the City of Crystal's Human Rights Commission back in early 2000s.
Which Human Rights Commission?
City of Crystal.
Okay.
And so my time as their president, I helped to organize a multi-city community event. Of course, if we had the things that were happening right now, we didn't necessarily have the technology that amplified some of that. So I know that the work that they're doing now in terms of human rights and advocating for that is 10 times what we were doing in the early 2000s. But it's obviously something that I'm very passionate about, and I've spent the majority of my time in non-paid positions doing. So maybe I will stop there in terms of my experience and background, because to me it's more important to hear from you. And if we have time, I can sort of fill in the rest of the gaps as we go. So I do also want to identify that there are a couple people here that are filming, so if you don't feel comfortable identifying your concerns, I'm happy to give you my cards. You can share those with me afterwards. But one of them is here with the Republican Party. And
RCC, yeah.
And so able to help get this message perhaps back to Eric Paulson. And so keep that in mind as well. Yes.
Just a vague question, but if you could be specific, I would appreciate it. I do live in Maple Grove. My name is Andrea, and I'd like to know what your opinion is about charter schools.
So I, having worked as a social worker and having seen what not only our teachers but our students are going through, I think it's absolutely critical that we give parents options. Not only in the schools that their children can go to, but also the way that their child best learns. We now know that sitting in a classroom with even 30 other students for 7-8 hours a day is not conducive to some individuals' learning styles. And so while I support all variety of school programs, we cannot take away funding from public schools. And the voucher system that's currently in place and the way that they're implementing it would do just that. It's not providing individuals that have lower socioeconomic status the opportunity to actually be able to afford to put their child in a charter school. Let's be honest, a $500 tax break when tuition is in the tens of thousands.
Charter schools are public schools. They're not, you don't pay
Not all of
for
them.
charter
It's
schools.
both. They're both.
The ones that you have to pay for. Or private schools, that the tax credit that people are getting is not enough to make that difference for individuals who wouldn't have otherwise been able to pay for it. I see education as an investment in our future and something that I think we absolutely need to fund. The fact that teachers have to pay for crayons and socks and snacks and all of these things that definitely should not be coming out of their pockets when they already are not getting paid nearly enough for the work that they're doing. I mean, they are educating our future. And to force them to pay money out of their own pockets that could be going to their own children is ridiculous. I was afforded my education based on the individuals that have come before me and paid taxes. And so sort of diving a little bit into tax reform, I think we have to stop looking at taxes as such a negative thing. Just like everybody, I don't enjoy, all of the taxes that we have, but they're an investment in our future. And so when I talk to people about how I wish I had to pay less taxes, sometimes I ask, well, how do you like the roads that you drive on and the bridges that you drive across, hopefully? And it's something that we need to sort of shift the way that we look at it, because without investing in our future, there's not going to be anything left for our children, our grandchildren, and their children.
So what do you think about public charter schools?
I think what we need to do is level the playing field for everyone across the nation. So as a member of Congress, there's more that you can do on a state level to assist with some of those. The way that our laws have set up is that they are putting more of those choices onto the states. And so I haven't had a chance to look into them as much to be able to answer your question thoroughly. Yeah.
Do you have any statistics on the charter schools that are failing, and what percentage of students say they will allow in who are disabled or need special ed, and then also on the charter schools that have stolen people's money and taxpayers' money? It seems like you're always reading in the paper about a charter school that's going, it's upending because of something that's somebody's doing wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wish I had specific statistics on those, but it's definitely something that as the next weeks and months progress, as my platform becomes clearer, and as I hear from people in the community that some of these things are real important to them, something that I'll be looking into and submitting potential proposals on how we could change that in the future. Because it's an issue. We hear in the news every day about somebody that's caught taking money out of the schools, and when they're already not funded to the level that they need to be, it's really disheartening.
It just seems like, some of these people are just doing it for their own benefit. They find it a way to get rich quick or buy a new home or whatever,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Give me your story from scratch. What's your vision and plan for organizing and raising enough money to beat Mr. Paulson, who's going to reach out to his fat cats and get plenty of money? I hope that's not good.
So that is a great question. I will not lie. When I first heard that it was going to take between $2 and $10 million that as a candidate you would have to raise, I almost fell out of my chair, because that level of money every 2 years for almost every single congressional race across the country is ridiculous. When our communities are hurting, but it's the reality. So I'll talk about how I'm going to raise it. But it's unacceptable with how that money is spent in ways that are frustrating people with TV ads and the literature that is nonstop. And so it's going to take a shift in our community to get there, and that's a long-term thing. In terms of right now, immediately, how would I do that? So there's a couple of ways. One of which is tapping into networks of individuals that have not previously been tapped into. I'm a social worker, and as a social worker, we know that policy drives practice. And every social worker knows the feeling of having to do more with less. Just today, I had 3 friends post that on one of their social media sites that they were being laid off. And so utilizing strategies like Bernie Sanders did with lots of small donations from people in all socioeconomic statuses is one of the strategies that I have in connecting with individuals across the nation. And I feel that it's okay to go outside of our district in part for some of that money for one main reason, and that's that we now know, we should have known before, and some of us did, that every seat matters because every vote counts. In the House of Representatives, we needed 2 Republicans to vote against the American Health Care Act, and it would not have gone on to the Senate. Eric Paulson is one of those. And so there are people in districts in California and safe states that are wanting to do something, and a lot of people act with their pocketbook. And the other plan that I have is to connect with our Women's March Network. I had the amazing opportunity of connecting with Sister March organizers all across the nation as we were planning, and many of them have already donated to my campaign. And some of that is a testament to they know what I can do, and they know that the work that's been done with the Women's March, and they know that I believe in what's going to move America forward in the right direction. So I plan on spending a lot of time raising money and connecting with donors that have donated to Democrats in the past, just like other candidates I'm sure will do as well. I think the other part of it is that we've seen here in our district, as well as we just saw down in Georgia, that it's not just about the money. They spent $50 million on the race in Georgia, and the Democratic candidate still lost. So while money is absolutely important, it's going to take more than that, because we've had millions, we've spent millions, and we still lost everything. But what we haven't had is a candidate who can show a vision and organize on a level that turns out 100,000 people to St. Paul. And that was because they believed in what the Women's March was putting forth. So, yeah.
Can you give us some of your thoughts about national environmental policy?
So science is real. And it's sad that we have to say that, but it's honestly, every day we're seeing people question whether or not what scientists are putting forward, if it's reputable. And as a social scientist, I think that that's reprehensible. Again, it's about investing in our futures, in our children's futures, in our grandchildren's futures. And so finding ways to support new efforts and incentivizing businesses to go along with that is really going to be a critical step in this process. What I've seen firsthand in the social services field is that when you take away one resource without replacing it with another tool set, you're going to get pushed back. And I think that that's what some people were feeling, is that now you can no longer or should no longer use coal, but they didn't provide them with some of the other resources that were really necessary. And so it's going to be coming up with a good strategy for transitioning as well, to make sure that we have buy-in from everyone, and it can't be a knee-jerk reaction, and we have to help people understand on a personal level why it's important, because as we're seeing more and more, statistics and facts just seem to go right over people's heads. Because nowadays it's hard to know what's real and what's an alternate fact.
Could I follow up on that and say, how would you speak to a Republican who would say, but we have to give these businesses this break. It's costing them too much money to protect the environment. How do you counter that argument?
Mm-hmm. So I've spent my entire career helping people understand and talking with them about our different opinions. And so part of what it's going to take is actually listening to them and hearing their perspective, because they might have some good ideas. And then it's a matter of getting their buy-in and their investment on how can we work together to move this forward, to move in the right direction. And so it really does become about having those conversations and building that relationship with people, because we are much more alike than we are different, and I feel like we've gotten away from that. And the more we polarize ourselves and say, well, I'm this versus that, the harder time that we're going to have having those conversations. So being able to help people see, I agree with you, I don't disagree, but I don't share the same perspective on how we're going to get there, but maybe we can work together. Again, it's a foreign concept in Congress, I think, but yeah.
I might have missed what you said, but besides Women's March, are there any other leadership positions that you have founded and that you organized?
Yep, so I was the president of the Human Rights Commission in
Besides,
Crystal, and I am in a supervisory role with the state as well. So I oversee 3 counties here in Minnesota and all of the licensed services that are in place. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years.
How do you see yourself as leading if you're elected?
So what that starts with is listening and learning. So that's my perspective, and that's the way that I approach everything in life, is that if I don't understand where you're coming from, I certainly can't help to resolve the issue. And so it's a matter of utilizing those skills and working with people and working with the experts that are out there as well. The people that are in Congress, I mean, Eric Paulson himself has said, I'm not smart enough to know X, Y, or Z. And it's not always about what you know, it's about how you can get connected with the resources and the people that are experts. I think that's part of the problem that we've had, is the people that are elected into Congress seem to think that they know everything. And that's just not possible. But what shows more character, I think, is if you can connect with the resources that are going to help you be the most informed when you're putting forth legislation or when you're debating something on the floor.
So suppose you succeed in unelecting EP. How would you work to change the present policies? I mean, listening and all that. Besides, do you have an idea what policy that you are more interested in?
Healthcare is my number one concern because I know how detrimental that will be for the 50,000 here in Congressional District 3 and the 24 million across the country that would lose their healthcare. And the $880 billion that will be stripped from Medicaid. And half of all children born in the United States are born on Medicaid, and so to remove almost $1 trillion worth of funding from that program is atrocious. So that's my primary concern, is working on that, and we'll see in the next coming weeks here what happens with the Senate and if they pass it and sort of how that translates. But that's my primary concern.
Are you proposing to work only with elected officials, or are you also thinking about involving grassroots groups?
I think we need to involve people that understand the problem, because elected officials don't always understand the true impact that legislation is going to have on the people that they're serving. An example of this is the Center of Medicaid and Medicare Services came into Minnesota and said the way that you're currently operating the waivered system, which is the funding mechanism that supports individuals with disabilities to remain in their home as opposed to having to be in some sort of an institutional setting. They said the way that you're currently doing it is not the way that we want you to have it done. Because currently our 87 counties, we're doing it 87 different ways, 87 different amounts for the same type of services. And while it sounds great on paper to come in and say, we need to have this be uniform, what that means is the small mom and pop group homes up in northern Minnesota who are paying a different amount because cost of living is different up there is now going to have to adjust to what we're paying people down here in the Twin Cities. And what that means is 30% reduction in rates for some people, and then those individuals having to move out of their homes that they've lived in for 20-something years because they can no longer get the support that they need. So to answer your question, we need to involve people that truly understand the problems when we're talking about making policy changes, because otherwise the best intentions are not going to translate into the best results.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for being here. So I think my time is up, but I don't know if Dean Phillips is here yet, so maybe we can keep going.
He's not due for another 10 or so.
Oh, okay, okay.
How would you differentiate yourself between the three other candidates that are vying for this position, or don't you know yet?
I do know in some ways, one of which is I'm clearly a female. And while we should not be voting for somebody based on their gender, we do also need to recognize that the House of Representatives needs to be representative of our community. And that women, when they are elected, they get more done, and they come to the table to listen. Not with a response or not a way to resolve the issue. And so that's one thing that I think really makes me stand apart from the others, is that I have that experience for more than the last decade of really listening to people and understanding where they're coming from.
Anything else that distinguishes you from the other than that you're a woman?
Sure. So some of the other things that would distinguish me from them is the real life experiences that I've had. I know what housing instability feels like. I know what it's like to have an immense amount of student loan debt hanging over your head that you may or may not finish paying off by the time you pass away. And I was responsible with the amount of money that I took out for student loans. But having a master's degree and having spent 6 years in college resulted in a lot of student loan debt for me. I know what it's like to worry about my mom and my stepdad, who will inevitably end up on Medicaid and do not have a large lump of money that they can use for their retirement. And so those things really make a difference when we're talking about advocating every single day, day in and day out. When those lobbyists come to your door and offer you this immense amount of money, it makes it a little bit easier to take that money if you're not as connected and you don't know what that fight is like. When you haven't lived those experiences. It's not to say that any of the other candidates couldn't fight as well, but I think it just adds another layer of tenacity and what it takes in Congress to continue fighting for the real change that people need to see happen so that their quality of life can be increased.
Will you hold town hall meetings?
Yes, I already had one. I had one last Tuesday, but absolutely, as much as possible, and certainly more than once every 7 years.
What is the state of your organization? Do you have a campaign manager, marketing?
Yep, so I have a campaign manager, and all of these individuals are on an interim basis. They're people that I have found through my networks and through connecting with former state representatives who have helped me along the way because they believe in me and my vision. And so it's a matter of getting some of those things in place until some of the more some of the fundraising comes in to assist with some of that. So it is, our system is not set up for grassroots candidates. Our system is set up for people that can either self-fund or can tap into that real quick and get that money raised. But again, if we continue doing things the way that we've been doing them, that's the definition of insanity. Doing things the same way over and over again and expecting different results.
Have you contacted the DFL party and found out what you need to do and all that?
Yep, so I connected with the DFL party. I've spoken with 3 out of the last 5 candidates here in Congressional District 3. I was the first person to reach out to them. There's a liaison that CD3 has appointed for the 4 candidates to ensure that we all have the same level of knowledge and information. I went to the DFL Training Summit this past weekend to get more information about specific campaign procedures. And then I was just selected to participate in Emerge's regional boot camp, regional Midwest boot camp. So Emerge is a national organization that in 2016 had over 200 candidates on ballots across the nation, and 70% of their alumni won.
Would you support the DFL endorsed candidate?
Yes.
Not running the primary?
Yes. So my number one concern is getting a representative in office who will amplify the voices of our entire community. And right now, that is not Eric Paulson. And so what that means is it's going to be the DFL candidate. And so at the end of the convention, if our community decides that somebody else is better equipped, then I will throw my support and volunteers and everything I have behind that person, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Why do you think Terry Bonoff didn't beat Paulson?
You know, I don't know all of the ins and outs of her campaign. I've heard from a lot of people the things that they think could have gone differently. I think something that a lot of candidates are missing these days on both sides of the aisle is that they're not giving somebody something to believe in. They're saying, I'm not so-and-so, or I won't do what so-and-so does, but they're not telling you what they will do or how you see fighting for America going forward. And I think that's one piece that I noticed was missing, was there was a lot of not wanting to associate with Trump, but not necessarily giving people a reason to vote for her, although I did vote for her.
Are you willing to knock on doors?
Every day. From sunup to sundown if possible. I've already been door knocking for the DFL just to get a sense of what people are worried about, what they're thinking about. It's an amazing opportunity, and it's a good thing that I like people because I think that's absolutely what it's going to take. And connecting with people above 55 and meaning Highway 55 because I feel like some of our base feels a little left out. On the outskirts, and I think that we need to reconnect with them, and we also need to start those conversations with people that maybe see themselves as conservative, but know that the direction that we're heading is not good. And so starting those conversations early, and that means door knocking, and that means phone calling, and that means real life conversations, not letters or emails or that sort of thing, is absolutely important. And then adding social media, because it's ever growing and important as well. Okay. Well, I will leave some of my cards over on the table. You can find me. My website is my name, AliciaDonahue.com. And you can connect to my social media that way as well. And like I said, I had my last town hall my first town hall this last Tuesday. Not my last town hall. And so I plan on doing more listening and learning tours, stops along the way over the next few weeks and months. And then there's a couple events that I'll be at this weekend as well if you want to.
Do you have another get-together planned in the future here?
I'm planning some one-on-one conversations with people in our marginalized communities at the moment, but because I think that those conversations are the ones that are going to take the longest, that trust, because I know that you can't just go in and expect trust, you have to earn it. And so I'm starting those conversations, and then we'll be planning more events, so I don't have anything scheduled.
What 3 counties do you oversee for the state?
Ramsey, Washington, and Dakota. So there is no conflict of interest being here in Hennepin County and Carver County and Anoka County. I did cover Anoka County when I started, and I've been a adult and children's mental health case manager here on this side of town, as well as a crisis response worker up in Coon Rapids as well.
Well, Alicia, thank you very much for coming to see us.
Thank you.